I'm Charlotte Collins, and I'm going to read my sample translation of the first few pages of this novel by the Austrian writer Eva Menasse, Dunkelblum, or in English, Darkenbloom. In Darkenbloom, the walls have ears. The flowers in the gardens have eyes. They turn their heads this way and that, so nothing escapes them, and the grass has whiskers that register every step. People here have a sixth sense. Curtains billow as if fanned by quiet breathing, in and out, essential to life. Whenever God looks down into these houses from above, as though they had no roofs, when he peeps into the dolls' houses of the model town he constructed with the devil to serve as a warning to all, in almost every house he sees people standing at the window, behind their curtains, peering out. Sometimes, often, there are two, even three of them in the same house, standing at windows in different rooms, concealed from one another. One wishes God could only see into houses and not into hearts. In Darkenbloom, the locals know everything about each other, and the few tiny details they don't know, that they could neither fabricate nor simply leave out, these are not irrelevant. These matter most of all. Whatever is not common knowledge predominates like a curse. The others, the incomers and those who've married in, don't know much. They know that the castle burnt down, that the Count's descendants now live in various far-flung countries, but usually return for weddings and christenings, when there is great celebration throughout the town. The children gather flowers in the cottage gardens and wreathe garlands. The old women dig out their 100-year-old traditional costumes, and everyone stands the length of Herrengasse and waves. The foreign brides note with tight little smiles that, although the Republicans took over many years ago, the subjects here can still be relied upon, on high days and holidays at least. It's been a long time, though, since counts were buried here. The crypt can be visited, but it is no longer accepting occupants. It wasn't until 20 years after the war that the counts were lured back to Darkenbloom with the information that the family crypt was no longer watertight. By contrast, immediately after the war, somebody, no one knows who, kept them away with astonishing diplomatic finesse. The news conveyed to them about the condition of the burnt-out ruin was greatly exaggerated. Demolished, alas, it had to be completely demolished. This was the assessment presented amid wailing and gnashing of teeth. And the recently widowed countess in exile believed her former stewards and tenants and secretaries and maids, or whosoever was behind it, or whosoever passed on things they knew from hearsay, or things they had been forced to say themselves. Perhaps the countess wanted to believe it. She was too lazy or too cowardly to come and see for herself, too low on funds to pay for a surveyor's report. And so the castle was pulled down, and a huge piece of prime real estate became available in a previously inaccessible central location. Someone must have profited back then, because someone always does. The centre of Darkenbloom has been architecturally and atmospherically divided ever since. The centuries-old rustic half, with its winding streets and whitewashed houses, with their blue or green shutters, and the other half, hideously functional, all steel and silicon, practical, easily wiped clean, just as people would have liked to have been themselves back then, in the period of Reconstruction. And so, 20 years later, the Countess's genial eldest son returned for a flying visit, a man who could be described as many things but not sentimental. "The ancestors are seeping," he trumpeted. The crypt was opened, and what needed to be sealed was sealed. Afterwards, the priest blessed everything emphatically and for all eternity, and the crypt was closed again. It is said that there were still women of Darkenbloom who kissed His Serene Highness's hand after the ceremony, curtsying as they did so. Fairbanks, meanwhile, sat in Café Posana with his hardcore stalwarts, and they drank till their noses glowed, and those present were already ruddy nate with anticipation, because soon, when the Count departed, the balance of power would be restored in Darkenbloom.